Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today with a message of faith, strength, and divine justice. You see, life has a way of testing us. People will hurt you, betray you, and even try to break you. But let me tell you something, God does not sleep. He sees everything, and when you are walking in righteousness, you don't have to fight every battle because God fights for you. God works in unseen ways. Trust His timing. There is something powerful about trusting God's timing, especially when we feel wronged. As human beings, we have a natural tendency to want justice immediately. When someone hurts us, we want to see them pay for what they did. We want to see them struggle, feel regret, or suffer the same pain they caused us. But God does not operate on our timeline. He sees things from a higher perspective, and His ways are beyond our understanding. When He says, "Vengeance is mine," He means that He has already set things in motion, even if we can't see it yet. One of the biggest struggles people face is patience. When we don't see justice happening right away, we start to wonder if God is even paying attention. We start asking, why are they still thriving? Why does it seem like they're getting away with it? But what we fail to realize is that God's justice doesn't always happen in the way we expect. Sometimes He allows people to experience temporary success only to bring them to a place of accountability at the right moment. Other times He works on their hearts in ways we may never see, but rest assured, nothing escapes His watchful eyes. When you trust God's timing, you release yourself from the burden of trying to control the outcome. You no longer have to stress about how things will unfold. Instead, you walk in peace knowing that God is handling it in the best way possible. Think about it. If you had the power to make justice happen right now, would you truly know the best way to do it? Would you know how to reach a person's heart, change their ways, and still protect your own spirit from becoming bitter? That's why trusting God is so important. And He doesn't just deal with the situation. He deals with it in a way that aligns with His purpose. Look at the story of Joseph in the Bible. His brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery, and left him for dead. It took years before he saw justice. But in the end, God elevated him to a position of power while his brothers were left in need. Imagine if Joseph had given up on God's timing. Imagine if he had taken revenge in his own way. He would have missed out on the greater plan that God had in store. The same applies to us. Sometimes, the reason we don't see justice right away is that God is preparing something greater, something that will not only prove His faithfulness, but also bless us beyond what we imagine. So when it feels like nothing is happening, when it seems like the people who hurt you are prospering while you're still struggling, don't lose faith. God is working in unseen ways. He is aligning things, setting things in place, and making sure that justice happens at the right time. Your job is to keep trusting, keep believing, and keep moving forward. Because when the time is right, God will make everything fall into place. Peace in your heart is a sign He's handling it. Their own actions will come back to them. When someone has wronged you, it's natural to feel hurt, angry, or even vengeful. Your mind replays the situation, thinking of all the ways you could get even or wishing that karma would hurry up and do its job. But one of the biggest signs that God is dealing with those who hurt you is the peace that starts to fill your heart. At first, it might not make sense. You may still see them living their lives seemingly unaffected by what they did. Yet, deep inside, you begin to feel lighter. That's not an accident. That is God working in your spirit, taking the burden of revenge off your shoulders and reminding you that He is in control. When you truly trust that God is handling it, you don't have to carry the weight of bitterness or resentment. The anger that once consumed you starts to fade, not because the situation was fair, but because you realize that justice is not yours to enforce. You begin to understand that holding on to negativity only chains you to the past. God wants you to walk forward in freedom, and that peace is His way of letting you know that He is working behind the scenes. It's a sign that He has already set things in motion and you don't need to interfere. That peace is proof that God is aligning everything as it should be. At the same time, the people who have hurt you are not escaping the consequences of their actions. It may not be obvious and it may not happen the way you imagine, but rest assured, no one gets away with wrongdoing forever. The energy they put into the world, the lies, the betrayal, the mistreatment of others, will return to them in ways they never expected. This isn't about wishing harm upon anyone, but rather understanding that God's law of sowing and reaping is always in effect. They may think they have moved on without repercussions, but sooner or later life will catch up to them. People often think that getting away with something means there won't be consequences. But God has a way of teaching lessons in ways that are far more impactful than anything human hands could orchestrate. Sometimes He allows people to succeed for a season, only to bring them to a place where they have to face what they've done. Other times, He humbles them in ways that force them to recognize the pain they caused. And in some cases, He allows them to lose the very things they thought would bring them happiness. But no matter how it happens, their own actions will be what brings them down. That's why you don't need to worry. If you have peace, hold on to it. It means that God has already taken control of the situation. And as for those who cause harm, they will eventually have to answer for their choices, because no matter how far they run, no one outruns the justice of God. God will elevate you while they fall. Forgiveness frees you, but consequences remain. Karma is real, but God's justice is greater. When people hurt you, betray you, or try to tear you down, it can feel like they have stolen something from you. Your trust, your joy, your peace. But God is not a God who lets His children remain broken. One of the clearest signs that He is dealing with those who hurt you is that while they fall, He lifts you up. The very people who tried to block your blessings will have no choice but to watch you rise. And the best part, you won't have to manipulate anything or seek revenge to make it happen. God will do it in such a way that everyone will know it was Him. Elevation does not always happen overnight, but when you stay faithful, keep your heart pure, and refuse to sink to the level of those who hurt you, God will reward you. He will open doors that others tried to shut. He will place opportunities in your path that your enemies never saw coming. You will succeed despite their attempts to bring you down, and that in itself will be proof that God's justice is far greater than human revenge. The ones who sought to harm you will have to witness your victory, not because you wished them harm, but because God is a God of restoration. He never lets His children suffer without bringing something greater out of it. Forgiveness plays a major role in this process. Many people think that forgiving someone means they are excused from the consequences of their actions, but that's not true. Forgiveness frees you from the weight of anger, resentment, and pain. It allows you to move forward without bitterness poisoning your heart. But just because you forgive does not mean there won't be consequences for what was done. God is just. He sees every tear you've cried, every sleepless night you endured, every moment of betrayal you suffered. And while He calls us to forgive, He also promises that justice will be served in His way and in His timing. This is why karma alone is not enough. People love to say what goes around comes around, and while that may be true, God's justice is greater than simple karma. Karma works on an idea of balance. What you put into the world comes back to you, but God's justice is divine. It is not just about punishment. It is about redemption, transformation, and setting things right in a way that human understanding cannot grasp. The people who try to harm you may experience setbacks, losses, or personal struggles, but God doesn't just let things fall apart without a purpose. He uses even their downfall to teach them lessons, to humble them, and to remind them that their actions have consequences. So while you focus on your elevation, while you embrace the peace that comes from forgiving, and while you trust that justice will be done, remember this: no one escapes God's justice. No one outruns the consequences of their actions forever, and in the end, His plan is always greater than anything you could have imagined. There are times in life when people will hurt you so deeply that you feel like justice needs to happen immediately. You wonder why God is allowing them to continue their lives as if nothing happened. But what we must always remember is that God's timing is not our timing. He sees the full picture while we only see a small part. When He begins to deal with those who hurt you, it may not be obvious right away, but that doesn't mean He isn't working. Sometimes He allows people to experience temporary success, only to bring them to a place of accountability at the right moment. Other times, He removes things from their lives gradually, making them feel the weight of their own actions. The way He chooses to bring justice is beyond human understanding, but rest assured, it is always perfect. One of the most powerful signs that God is handling the situation is the peace that begins to settle in your heart. At first, you might still feel the sting of betrayal or the frustration of waiting for justice. But over time, as you lean into God's presence, that anger and hurt start to fade. It's not because the situation suddenly changed. It's because God has taken the burden off your shoulders. He is reminding you that vengeance belongs to Him, not you. That peace is a gift, a sign that you don't have to carry the weight of revenge or bitterness. It allows you to move forward, trusting that everything is already being worked out. At the same time, the people who have wronged you are not escaping justice. They may believe they have gotten away with their actions, but no one outruns the consequences of their own behavior. Life has a way of bringing things full circle. The seeds they have planted, whether good or bad, will eventually bear fruit. And when that happens, they will have to face the reality of what they have done. It may come in the form of lost opportunities, broken relationships, or personal struggles that force them to reflect on their choices. The way God chooses to humble them may not be what you expect, but it will happen in His way and at His perfect time while they are dealing with the consequences of their own actions. God is working on your behalf. He is lifting you up, blessing you in ways you never imagined, and preparing a future that far outweighs the pain of your past. The very people who tried to bring you down will have to watch as God elevates you. And the best part, you won't have to seek revenge or prove anything to anyone. Your success, your peace, and your joy will be the evidence that God is in control. He is not only dealing with those who hurt you, but He is also making sure that you rise above it all. God works in unseen ways. Trust His timing. Peace in your heart is a sign He's handling it. Their own actions will come back to them. God will elevate you while they fall. Forgiveness frees you, but consequences remain. When someone wrongs you, it's natural to want immediate justice. You may find yourself asking, God, do you see what they did? Are you going to do something about it? But God's justice does not always operate on human timelines. He works in unseen ways, setting things in motion long before we ever realize it. Just because you don't see instant results doesn't mean He isn't working. Sometimes He allows a person's own choices to lead them into their downfall. Other times He is teaching you patience, preparing something greater for you while orchestrating the right way to bring justice. Trusting His timing means believing that He will make everything right in a way that is far more effective than anything we could ever do ourselves. One of the clearest signs that God is already handling the situation is the peace that starts to settle in your heart. At first, you may still feel the weight of betrayal, the sting of hurt, or the frustration of seeing those who wronged you seemingly thrive. But as time goes on, you'll notice that the anger begins to fade. That's not an accident. It's a sign that God is working on your behalf. When you are truly in His hands, you don't have to chase justice. You can rest in the knowledge that He is already taking care of it. That peace is evidence that you no longer need to carry the burden of revenge. It allows you to move forward, knowing that everything will unfold as it should. Meanwhile, those who have wronged you are not escaping accountability. Their actions will eventually catch up with them. It may not be in the way you expect, but God's law of sowing and reaping is always in motion. People may think they can treat others poorly and move on without consequences, but life has a way of bringing everything full circle. Whether through personal struggles, lost opportunities, or sudden realizations, they will come to face what they have done. No one gets away with causing harm indefinitely. God ensures that justice is served in ways we may not see, but the results are undeniable. While they face the consequences of their actions, God is lifting you up. Instead of allowing you to be consumed by bitterness, He is opening new doors, restoring your joy, and placing you in positions you never imagined possible. The very people who tried to block your blessings will have no choice but to witness your rise. That is God's way of showing that no one can stop His plan for your life. Forgiving those who hurt you does not mean their actions are forgotten. It means you refuse to let their wrongdoing control your heart. But forgiveness does not erase consequences. God's justice ensures that while you are set free from the burden of pain, they will still have to answer for what they did. Trust that His justice is always greater than any revenge you could ever seek. God works in unseen ways. Trust His timing. Peace in your heart is a sign He's handling it. Their own actions will come back to them. God will elevate you while they fall. Forgiveness frees you, but consequences remain. Karma is real, but God's justice is greater. When you are wronged, it is easy to feel like justice must happen immediately. You want to see the person who hurt you face the consequences of their actions. But God's justice does not always work the way we expect. He is always working, even when you can't see it. Sometimes He allows people to think they have gotten away with their actions, only for their own choices to bring them down later. Other times, He delays justice because He is preparing something greater for you. His timing is perfect, and when you trust that He is in control, you no longer have to carry the burden of worrying about how and when things will be set right. What may seem like a delay is actually God aligning everything for the right moment. One of the first signs that God is dealing with those who hurt you is the peace that begins to fill your heart. At first, you may still